Right, so I'll try my best to read this out, but if I do make mistakes, I'm sorry. I'm not starting again. I'm just going to leave them on because this will be a long video, and I'm definitely going to make mistakes because I always do. But hopefully nobody will be bothered about that. All 8 of you that will probably end up watching this video, I mean. Anyway, the Canaanites were an ancient Semitic-speaking people who inhabited the land of Canaan, roughly corresponding to present-day Israel, Palestine, Lebanon, and parts of Jordan, Syria, and Egypt. They are known from archaeological and historical sources, including ancient texts such as the Bible. One of the practices associated with the Canaanites, particularly in the context of religious rituals, is the worship of the god Moloch. Also, doesn't matter. Moloch was often depicted as a bull-headed deity associated with fire and child sacrifice. Just as a side note, the Israelites, when Moses went to get the Ten Commandments, actually created a golden effigy of a calf, which is a young bull, which means they were going back to Moloch worship. Anyway, I can make a video on that maybe sometime. Just ask me if you want me to. The practice of child sacrifice to Moloch involved offering infants or young children as burnt offerings in ritualistic ceremonies. These sacrifices were believed to appease the god and bring blessings or favour upon the community. The biblical texts, particularly in the Old Testament, mention the Canaanites' practice of child sacrifice in connection with the worship of idols and false gods, including Moloch, for example. Passages in the book of Leviticus 18:21 to 22:5, and the book of Jeremiah 32:35, condemn such practices and warn against following the ways of the Canaanites. Archaeological evidence, such as excavations of ancient sites in the region, has also provided some support for the existence of these rituals, although interpretations vary among scholars. In summary, the Canaanites practiced child sacrifice as part of their religious ritual, particularly in the worship of the god Moloch. This practice is condemned in biblical text and has been documented throughout archaeological findings. Next part, Moloch. Moloch is an ancient deity worshipped by various cultures in the ancient Near East, including the Canaanites, Phoenicians, and Carthaginians. The worship of Moloch was associated with rituals involving fire and notably child sacrifice. The exact characteristics and representation of Moloch varied across different cultures and time periods, but he is often depicted as a bull-headed figure or a deity with human form, but with a bull's head or features. Moloch was often considered a god of fertility, fire, and sometimes war. The most notable aspect of Moloch's worship was the practice of child sacrifice. Infants or younger children were often offered as burnt offerings in ritualistic ceremonies aimed at appeasing Moloch and securing blessings or favours from the deity. These sacrifices were typically carried out by burning the children alive in a sacrificial fire. References to Moloch worship and child sacrifice can be found in ancient texts, including biblical passages such as Leviticus 18:21, which condemns the Israelites from engaging in such practices, and Jeremiah 32:35, which speaks of sacrificing children to Moloch as a grievous sin. Archaeological evidence, such as discoveries of sacrificial pits containing the remains of infants and children at sites associated with the ancient Canaanites and Carthaginian cultures, provide additional confirmation of the practice of child sacrifice in connection with the worship of Moloch. In summary, Moloch was an ancient deity worshipped in the Near East, associated with fertility, fire, and sometimes war. The worship of Moloch included the abhorrent practice of child sacrifice, which was carried out in the belief that it would bring divine favour or blessings upon the worshippers. Okay, next part. The Nephilim. The Nephilim are enigmatic figures mentioned in the Bible, particularly in the book of Genesis, chapter 6, verse 4, and and their account in Numbers 13:32 to 33 adds another layer of mysterious presence. In Genesis 6:4, the Nephilim are described as the offspring of the sons of God and the daughters of men. The exact identity and nature of the Nephilim are subject to interpretation and debate among scholars and theologians. They are often interpreted as giants or superhuman beings, possibly indicating a state of moral corruption and wickedness prevalent in the pre-flood world, also known as the antediluvian world. In Numbers 13:32 to 33, the Nephilim are mentioned again, this time in the context of the spies' reports on the land of Canaan. The 12 spies sent by Moses to explore the land provided a report to the Israelites upon their return. They described the land as bountiful, but also mentioned encountering formidable inhabitants, including the Nephilim. The spies reported feeling like grasshoppers in comparison to these inhabitants, and emphasizing their perceived strength and stature. This account contributes to the overall narrative of the Israelites' journey to conquer the land of Canaan, highlighting the challenges and obstacles they faced. The mention of the Nephilim adds a sense of awe and fear surrounding the inhabitants of Canaan, further complicating the Israelites' decision-making process and their faith in God's promise to deliver them into the land. Made a mistake there. Decision-making process and their faith in God's promise to deliver the land into their hands. Interpretations of the Nephilim and their significance vary among scholars and religious traditions, with some viewing them as literally giants or hybrids beings, and others interpreting them symbolically as representations of moral corruption or spiritual conflict. Regardless of the interpretation, the mention of the Nephilim in Numbers 13:32 to 33 underscores the perceived strength and stature of the inhabitants of Canaan, contributing to the Israelites' hesitation and fear about entering and conquering the land. Okay, one more part. The Israelites encountered various challenges and adversaries, including the Nephilim and Canaanites, as they sought to conquer the land of Canaan, which was promised to them by God. The biblical narrative provides accounts of how the Israelites dealt with these inhabitants during the conquest of the land. Regarding the Nephilim, while they are mentioned in the book of spies in Numbers 13, while they are mentioned in the reports of spies in Numbers 13, there is no specific account of the Israelites directly engaging or defeating them. Instead, the narrative focuses on the Israelites' reaction to the report and their subsequent journey to possess the land, despite the perceived challenges. As for the Canaanites, the Israelites faced various tribes and city-states inhabiting the land of Canaan. The biblical accounts describe battles and sieges and conquests as the Israelites, under the leadership of figures such as Joshua, fought to claim the territory promised to them by God. The conquest of the Canaanites involved a military campaign and the capture of cities and defeat of enemy armies. The book of Joshua provides detailed accounts of battles and victories achieved by the Israelites against the Canaanites inhabitants. For example, the famous Battle of Jericho, where the walls of the city collapsed after the Israelites marched around it for 7 days, is one of the key events described in the conquest narrative. Throughout the conquest, the Israelites faced resistance from the Canaanites, who sought to defend their land and cities. However, the biblical narrative depicts the Israelites as ultimately prevailing and establishing control over much of the territories, fulfilling God's promise to give them the land of Canaan as their inheritance. The conquest of Canaan was complex and multifaceted process involving military strategies, divine intervention, and fulfillment of God's covenant with the Israelites. The biblical account and theological interpretations of these events emphasize the role of God in guiding and empowering the Israelites in the conquest of the land. Okay, that's all I've got for now. I'm sorry I struggled a bit with reading some of that, and the cat was distracting me as well, which didn't help. But anyway, if you're interested in that and you want me to do more videos like that, let me know in the comment section. What I didn't get around to mentioning was, and I can put it in another video, is that the people of Canaan, the Canaanites, were actually, from what I've been able to find out, not human. They were actually nephilim, and that includes their animals as well. Their DNA had been tampered with, some, you know, if you want to put it that way, and they were no longer human. So when they killed them, they weren't actually killing humans, they were killing demonic entities, or things that would become demonic after they die, because the Nephilim, when they die, become demons, because they become wicked spirits that can't pass over. There's nowhere for them to go. But anyway, enough. This video's gone on long enough. That's how I understand it anyway. If somebody wants to tell me I'm wrong, then fair enough, you can in the comment section, we can talk about it. But other than that, I hope you enjoyed this video and got something out of it. I know it's a lot of talking, but, you know, that's just the way I did it this time. If you did like it, then please give it a thumbs up. And if you're not subscribed, please consider subscribing. And if you want me to do more content like this, tell me, and I will. And I'll try and do even better next time. And I'll try not to make any mistakes reading it out. But other than that, thanks for watching, and bye for now. Bye.